right, guys, we're ready to start. Here's a very unique presentation, since it's like the only presentation with 3 speakers. And these 3 guys will tell you about the experience in co-development, including some obstacles as different time zones, cultural differences, and how they have coped with it. So welcome our 3 speakers.
Check, check. Yeah, well, it's almost like an internal postmortem about what we've been doing so far, but that's fine. Let's have fun. It's late in the day, but we're going to try to have a good time. This one is a very unique, not just the 3 of us talking. We're going to go from English to Russian and back to English. So if you don't have a translator and you don't have one, go find a buddy, because you're going to want to get a headset somewhere in the middle of the conversation. So one team strikes back. Co-development strikes back. Last year at 4C in Kiev, we started to talk about our concept of the one team. Today I'm here with Vyacheslav Kostikov and Vyacheslav Gladyshev, and my name is Jay Minn. We are on the Wargaming Platform team, and we'll tell you about what all that is. But really, what is it like for us now, 1 year after we said one team? What does that mean? How do we do? Again, internal postmortem. Hi, Chad. So we were asked to do a mission-critical project, super complex, again, and it was far-reaching, not just for the company, but for our players and for us as development team as well. We were asked to do this in a distributed team. This wasn't just like, hey, you guys develop it here and then give it to those other teams, but work together all as one team in again, creating a very complex technical project. Of course, it's culturally divergent because I'm American. I am born in Korea, but mostly I'm American. Okay, these fine gentlemen are Eastern European. Yes, you are.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. So we speak different languages. Although these guys speak fluent English. I only speak, a couple of words of Russian, so God bless these guys. We also have to live with a 10-hour time difference. When we work together, that means like Skype calls are happening at 6 in the morning, and I'm waking up very, very, very drowsy, and these guys are staying at the office and missing dinner with their kids. And that's the reality of our development. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to make the new version of the Wargaming Platform. It's called a networked platform, and it is the core game and business services that are required by games for distribution, commerce, and player management. That's a mouthful. What it really means is we're going to give you the games, let you install the bits, let you make an account, and pay us for having the fun. It's it. However, it's all the stuff that's not the game itself, but the infrastructure required to do the business of free-to-play games. So, as I said, we had a shop in Seattle. That's my team. We have 30, 40 people in Seattle. We have Kiev. Hi, Irina. She has a distribution team. 50 people? 50. We also have a WTP team in Minsk. Slava, how many people you got? 70. And commerce team, which is Slava's team, 20. He needs more people. And we have to work all together as a big group. We ran into all kinds of challenges while we were going through this process over the last year. Communication, of course. I talked about language. I only know one word, spasiba. Pretty good. I also learned good morning, dobre utro. How's that?
Yeah,
pretty good?
well.
Yeah. And again, the offices around the world with a 10-hour time difference during the horrible time of Q4 in daylight savings time, it's 11-hour time difference, which is even worse. And we also had different issues with diverging philosophies of how we do game development and how we do, I said game development. Yes, software development and cultural divergencies. This was a culture study that we got from Aaron Myers, a fantastic, by the way, there's a book called The Culture Map, strongly recommended, where we map out the differences between how different cultures communicate, lead, form trust, and the things, persuasion. And clearly, you can see that we're on different. Some stuff is the same, but a lot of the categories are very much on the opposite sides of the spectrum. We also have different methodologies versus in agile versus waterfall, like how much pre-production and architecture do you do beforehand, or how much do you just like let's just make something and see if it works. That's again, neither of us are perfectly on either side, but we do. Where we fall in the middle of the spectrum is again, very different amongst our three teams. We also had technology differences. There was a different mentality, different coding patterns, different tools, different programming languages, Java, Scala, Erlang, Go, you name it, Python. We had it all going on, different technology stacks, people's favorite APIs were just brought in and used to solve problems, immediate problems, but we had to actually now turn this into a holistic platform. As you can see, we were going in very far divergent directions, and it was going to be a tough deal. Until Matt, our boss, started saying, like, one team. It was just 2 words. He just said, one team. What does it mean? He goes like, I don't know. It's one team. You guys work together, figure it out. And it became like our battle cry for the platform. And things started to change just from having those 2 words. It's very simple. How just a simple battle cry can turn into a philosophy. So that became a hashtag. People started saying it. Tanks team started using it. We were like, all right, no, that's fine. They can have that too. But we want to now talk about 1 year later, from where we were in 4C Kiev, that was last year, now how far we got to today. Slava. Yeah. Here we go. Now we're going to Russian. If you don't know what he's saying, that's not my problem.
Well, yes. It now looks as that we're doing pretty well as one team, judging by the achievement of the task, of the goal. Yes, we kind of did achieve it. We now have the platform for the first, working for the first game that was developed elsewhere at Sega, and we are now publishing it from our new platform. So the game is Total War Arena. And in fact, we've been working with it for all of this year, but the audiences have only learned about it on August 28th, when we started to sell founder packs for everyone. Alrighty, this is a zoom in on the founder packs. Join and buy and enjoy this wonderful game, because this is something that we're going to run out soon, and there's going to be no new ones for some months. So we're waiting for your cash, guys. We were expecting some difficulty there, because we've been in the business for a while. We understand that there are things to tackle, there are problems to overcome or circumvent. So, you know, they say there's a post-mortem, but we did a pre-mortem autopsy of what our team is made up with and what kind of problems we might face, and how we can try and reduce the risks. So we spent actually several days, I think, doing this in all of our offices, trying to describe these problems, and then we set up the people that will tackle the problems, and we thought we had a solution. with which we started to actually work together. So we were working together and we were tracking how we were performing against these potential problems. At the same time, we started to realize quite soon that some of the problems have been underestimated in terms of their risk. Therefore, one of the biggest takeaways for you from this presentation is that if you are about to do co-development, think if you can avoid it. So, if you can avoid it, okay, that's the biggest takeaway. Why? Because you have to really make sure that the strength outweigh the weaknesses. We did found the strengths in co-development effort. For us, the benefits were, the main two were the two on the top of the list. That is, that we were looking for people who would be experienced in both game industry and platform architecture development. Those who knew how to make platforms for several games. We were at the same time looking for people with expertise that would be able to understand how the American audience will see that. That's why we needed co-development there. Other benefits were, of course, the salaries and the variety of expertise and hiring opportunities where you could bring in the members, the team members that you couldn't hire in your region. Another thing is that since it's been a shared task, there were many more people who could step in and take care of the project in the future if somebody has to step down. So now, what are the lessons of it and what worked and what didn't? On the commercial side of things, the platform has a number of elements. And there's a part that handles the orders, and this is assembled in Minsk. But to guide the user and to show them the product, you need the user. You need the people who do that product service, and they're based in Seattle. That's why I'm pointing at you there, Jay. Therefore, Minsk team had to work in tune, in rhythm with the Seattle team. We had to spend a lot of time setting up the communication because in our pre-mortem we realized that communication would be one of the biggest risks. And we had a lot of time, spent a lot of time communicating. Sometimes we're tough then. The problem was that we didn't put down everything that we agreed upon. I think Slava will touch upon this later. So once we had some understanding, we moved on. But about 3 weeks before the release, we realized that we had different things in mind. And when we started to integrate the bits of code and do the testing, we understood that something went wrong somewhere. But since we were one team, we didn't start an argument. We didn't start the blame war, but we came up with ideas. The guys from Seattle had a brilliant solution which we introduced, and 2 weeks before the release, the problem was gone. After that, we understood that communicating is a great thing, but documenting what you communicate and what you agree upon is even better. So that's our lesson. I think Slava can pick up from here. Yeah, sure. A lot of things I could share with because This presentation is not about theory, it's about the practical experience rather than anything else. So for Total War, we were creating a generic session tracking. So we were supplying this big feature, and the people from Seattle were not involved really. So we broke down the task, and all the developers were in one room. Everyone was doing their bit, so nothing could go wrong. But when we started to do the integration, it turned out that no one was thinking about the environment, about the setting it up, and everyone thought that this is not what they had to do, and therefore there was no coordination of the integration bit whatsoever. But we did luckily have some spare time, and we were able to be in time for production. Okay, now let's move forward. And the biggest idea that we had was that it's very hard to deliver the first version to production because there's a big overhead that is created. I mean the platform. I don't mean the individual elements, because platform is a large product which brings together many products and services, and the overall idea was to have everything in place. So you really had to document things well for third-party outsourcing if you need it. You need DevOps deployment partners to be able to understand your language. A1 support should be there as well. You should create capacity in every region. Adding new functions and adding improvements and mods is much easier than setting the whole thing up in the first place. And as we already touched upon, pre-mortem communication went this way. When everyone was kind of presenting their point of view, we discuss it, we agree on what we share, then we go back and implement it, and it turns out that the puzzle doesn't come together. Why? Because I saw the whole thing as a triangle, say, and my partner saw the big picture as a rectangle. And, we didn't discuss the kind of the philosophy of the big thing. That's why we needed one development approach to make sure that we were going in one direction, not in several directions at the time. And the main idea was that it's not enough to just talk and discuss things. It's important to document, to put down what you agreed upon, and to create architecture based on your agreements, and to store it in one place. Because the closer we are to the finish, the more different threads we're running, the more frequently we panic. And you run around looking for the last architectural solution to the specific issue or the specific thread and so on. And you spend a lot of time finding this out, and then the team gets disoriented as to what's next. Another lesson that we learned from this experience is that having a single business feature for every region was a bad idea. Because, and do avoid it, that's my advice, because platform is a number of services based on one thing, and if one team is working on one service and another team is working on another, then we had local management, then we have mixed priorities, and we don't have a vision of where we're going to, because we have several customers and we get disoriented. Therefore, if you can implement something in one place, then just do it. It's like an octopus, there's a biological fact that, I don't know how octopus works really, but all the different tentacles that the octopus has, they actually manage one another. So that's why we realized that our structure of the team has to adjust all the time. We did several postmortems as well, and not just the pre-mortem, and thanks to that we were able to realize that all the changes that we had to make are in the field of engineering, culture and communication. The first idea that we want to offer you is to see co-development as a high-level living organism, and all such organisms needs a brain, need a head. So have one place where decisions are made. Don't be an octopus. And that head, it needs to be able to rotate. That is, to have a 360 vision, to see every process that we're working on. And we decided that our architectural team should be such brain, such head. Therefore, we decided that our architects will be an independent group which will do our R&D, which will develop the architecture, and which will create the solutions that we will be implementing. We also decided that the architecture team should have a number of permanent members, and that our developers will be able to take part in the architecture team work and then go back to their own teams and implement the decisions that they were part of in the team. We also found out that core development is about knowledge exchange, knowledge sharing. You can't just keep some knowledge secret from the rest of the team, when was only one person that knows that. We started this in Minsk, then we shared it with Seattle, and I now believe that this is something everyone in the team shares, and I believe that our developers also share what are development principles, what are our IP philosophy, and we really hope that our engineers that have been working on that team will now become this holistic, well-trained soldiers, and because they've been through this experience sharing to such a degree. Aleona, hi. This is about you, what you were doing. What we also found was that the platform's big, the group is big, the team is big, and we have some teams that do isolated testing and that test the functionality, but we didn't have the people who would bring everything together. Therefore, we rearranged the platform testing, and now we want to have a global QA structure that will help us to have good quality development whenever the development takes place, and also serve as the integratory, cohesive kind of glue that will assure quality all over the place. We also, I think, now accepting the concept of feature-based teams, when every team when the team knows the platform well, and when they're ready to take responsibility for the feature entirely, not just a game feature, but I mean a business feature as well. No matter how many services will have to be changed, so they take responsibility from A to Z, and they go through with it. They do the testing and they ship it to production. This is the biggest idea. So it means anyone can go big. Anyone can blow up the desktop.
Easy, X-Wing, fine. Okay, so one team, effective code development. You heard all that. Some of you who have the ears, I hope you understood that. That's great. We're going to do this. We're actually doing this. We've started process and writing our stories and making our project plans so that our team in Seattle, we're going to be able to go and learn the Commerce code and the WTP code base. We're going to learn other languages like Elixir. We're going to learn how to do all the stuff, just like Slava's teams are going to be working on Java code, and we're going to be able to take a feature all the way from end to end, blow up the Death Star from beginning to end, without waiting for the priorities and other people's priorities to get in the way of us or him blowing up the Death Star all the way through. A request comes in, we're going to fulfill it all the way. That, we believe, is a secret to how we're going to live our next year, so that next year, if there is 4C Part 3, we'll come back with, return of WGC, what Irina is going to talk for the end of the trilogy. And once we have that going on, we feel that everything is going to be possible because there's a lot being asked of us to expand the platform. Like Max said the other day, what we're trying to do right now, we're going to stabilize the platform, and then we're going to expand next year. That is our goal. And really, ultimately, what we're trying to do is do beyond just have one team. We're going to make one company. Thank you. Slava Gladyshev, Vyacheslav Kostikov. I'm Jay Minn. Thanks for coming to our talk. Questions both in English and Russian. Go for it. Oh, Max.
In Russian, okay?
Go.
So my question about feature teams. So you're going to implement things from A to Z. What is the A here? You have the architects group, right? So there's a clash already there. Will they be doing the architecture, or will they get the task set up for them architecturally by the architectural team? Okay. So,
Идея состоит в том, именно поэтому я говорил, что доставить первую версию чего-то в продакшн очень сложно.
First, in order to ship the first version of something to production is very difficult. That's why we're now investing into architecture. Therefore, we will be able to add functionality to the platform very easily in the future. So when we have the frames and the rules of the game, it's much easier to add the new features. Therefore, if a new feature is not about a new unique service, it doesn't require a change in the architecture. That's why we are now doing a lot of pre-programming. This is not a waterfall. This is an investment into future that will be able to minimize the future damage. There won't be any penetrative blows. It will be just a glance hit. This is, well, if we're talking about the unique new capability of the platform, then we'll be able to invest into new architecture, into understanding how this service will integrate into the platform and how it will communicate with other services. Therefore, all this will have to be done together with our publishing and analytics colleagues. Therefore, we're not shipping architecture to production. No, no, no. We're not translating architecture into production. We're adding new services, and this is only meaningful when we are changing the business functionality. I think that's the reply.
Hi. I was wondering about the architecture group. So is that like centralized, or is it like elective from all the different studios? How does that work?
We have architects in all the different studios. Again, 10-hour time difference. Skype calls happen at 6 a.m. Travel happens, and architecture team works together. They have a backlog of artifacts to produce. They talk amongst themselves, they argue, they go back and forth, and they produce architecture documentation, which is a suggested a best practice for implementing a given component or a feature. So we have Chad and Tony in Seattle. We have
Dmitry Kosov, it seems to be Dima.
Yeah.
Say hi to everybody.
Hi, Dima.
Yeah.
And so these guys are distributed, and they work together as best they can over video Skype, Slack, and then we get together in person as often as we can. Any other questions?
Right, you are.
Well, is that good? Yeah. Yeah. Hi.
So Job from Sydney Tools development team. So we have, what I wanted to ask was, I guess, is everyone in the team actually just dedicated to platform itself, or did you guys have like people who have other responsibilities? For example, maybe if there's a similar feature that's in for one specific game itself, and they would have to balance between maintaining the existing ones versus like the new ones that they actually have.
You want to take this one? Slava, you want to take? Okay. Slava, go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, this was one of the challenges. Because now we have like trilogy, tanks, ships, planes, and blitz trilogy. These games uses like the current platform, and we are building the new platform for the like 3PP games. And yes, we plan to transfer the trilogy and the Blitz to the new platform. So we actually need to support two platforms, both, yes, at one time. And since the business is not waiting, business wants just money, we need to push new features both on the current platform. What we did, we actually allocated different teams and rotated them over time so that it would be interesting for every developer to work both on the current platform and on the new platform.
It gets tricky when we're trying to stack our priorities, right? And so that's where portfolio management becomes critical. And we have to balance the feature set that are custom for one game, immediate emergency needs, versus we really try to focus our effort on general purpose, things that are going to work over time for all games.
Yeah, and I want to add some. From my point of view, there is no like old platform and a new one. We have a current state. And in this case, that's all about knowledge sharing. We have different APIs and we have different engineers. Some of them like to work with single product, single project, whatever, and others want to participate in many activities. That's why it's very important, and we really try to build a universal soldiers. That's a solution from my point of view.
Cool. Yeah, it was just because on our side as well, for the Sydney tools teams as well, because we also have a committee for trying to unify tools and whatever not.
Yes.
But we have that problem where all the existing client tools itself, we're actually struggling because we need to support all the existing tools that we currently have versus trying to modernize everything that we currently have as well. And it's almost a case where we don't have enough resources to do both at the same time itself. But it's good that you guys had like a separate team to actually work on this. Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Okay. Over there. Way over there.
Thanks for the talk. Great talk. I was wondering, you said that documentation is very important. Do you have like special technical writers for this, or is this like your engineering team, like I don't know, at the end of the day goes into, I don't know, Confluence or something and documents everything? Like, what do you do?
We have a technical writing team that we work with. They're located in Minsk, but we're also working very hard to make sure that our APIs are documented in code, and then we have Swagger that we use to generate the documentation, and then it gets posted to our read docs. All that's getting put together so that there's going to be two sets of docs, ones that we're going to actually make public-ish to partners, and then, of course, internal engineering documentation. Keeping up with all of that stuff all the time is very hard, and it's really, again, now that we're live, Total War is out. It's making money. Can't tell you how much, but it's making money. And so now we have to support it, you know, and that means that our velocity is slowing down. That plus we're going to try to do this feature team experiment that we're going for. So our velocity is slowing down. We're doing it. Again, we'll see how it goes next year. We'll do a postmortem on that. And so that means with the documentation, the live support and everything, the new feature development has slowed down quite a bit. Again, stability, expansion. Anything else? Well, all right. Thanks for coming, you guys.
Thank you very much.
Slava, Slava.
keep catching our speakers in the hallway and putting cameras in front of them. Hi, please introduce yourself.
My name is Samuel Ranteskla. I work for Microsoft as a principal program manager out of Sweden.
Okay, Samuel, so let's talk about games. What's your favorite game?
Well, I wish I played a lot more games than I actually do. So I have to go back into the past. Like, one of my really favorite games is Jag the Lions 2 from like 92, 93. I think it was made here in Russia, if I'm not mistaken. Civilization, always been a big fan of that. And then the Enemy Unknown UFO trilogy from the 90s. There's so many games, I mean, it's like impossible to select one. But they're all strategic games, the ones that are my favorite.
Yeah, you're obviously a tactician. That's commendable. But do you remember the very first game you've ever played?
Decathlon, probably on the x86, somewhere around 84.
Wow, that's... I don't even remember that one.
Oh, it's like you basically play Decathlon and you just hammer at the keyboard to go faster, like 10 different sports events. Played it like crazy. I was 8 years old then.
Wow. How did you get into the gaming industry?
It was by chance, actually. So I was studying at Uppsala University, doing computer science, and they had this fair where companies were meeting the students. And there was these two guys that they've started a game company in the basement, and they wanted somebody to write a BSP tree, binary space partitioning tree. And I was looking for my thesis, so I figured let's combine those. So I joined them, I wrote my thesis in the games industry, and then from there on kind of like just went on. So this was 2000.
But now in 2017, what's your favorite and least favorite thing about game dev?
I mean, I think the games industry is awesome. Great place to work. There's so much passion. There's skilled, very intelligent people. I think that's my favorite thing. The least favorite thing is that, which I covered in my speech a little bit, I think that we're looking a little bit too much at how do we turn time into money, rather than seeing like how do we educate our kids. I really want to, that's my passion myself, is like, take this experience, make our kids better tomorrow than they are today. I'm a parent as well, so that's coming from that.
Well, that's a very noble thing to do.
I don't know if noble, just I think it would be a good thing for us.
Definitely is. About your speech, did you have any interesting questions that maybe stood out?
Yeah, there was some interesting questions, like if we look at mixed reality, what's going to happen with that? What's the dangers with that? I couldn't really answer them because it's, let's see what happens.
But if you were a part of your own audience, what question would you like to ask yourself?
That was a tricky one. Are you sure that you're right?
Are you?
No.
Well, we can be sure 100%, but still, we're trying to foresee the future here. How do you like the conference?
Love it. St. Petersburg, great place. Wargaming, excellent hosts. It's a great place to be. You should come to the next one.
Definitely do. Say, if you had the chance to go back in time to when you just started working in the industry and give yourself one advice, what would it be?
Try one of your ideas out.
That's very good. Thank you very much, Samuel. I hope you like the conference. Thank you. We got another one of our speakers here at 4C, and would like to ask him some questions. Hi, please introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Eric, and I'm the CEO of the Do Dreams game studio based in Helsinki, Finland.
Very nice to meet you, Eric. Tell me, what's the very first video game you've ever played?
I guess when I was a little kid, my dad was in banking and he had a lot of business trips, and he went to Japan, and he brought me one of these Nintendo handheld, like small games. It probably was Donkey Kong. So that's my first memories with gaming, and then I played a lot of Oil Panic with the Disney characters, so fond memories with those. Favorite gaming memories, well, I like games that I can play with my friends. I remember when I was in high school, we'd go visit my friend's house and we played a lot of these like sports games together, like NHL 95 and some F1 racing games. So I would say that maybe NHL 95 is the game that I have played most with my friends, and I have fond memories of, you know, starting after school and then realizing this like 2 a.m. and knowing that my mother will be very angry when I come home late.
That happened to all of us, I think. How did you start in the video game industry? What led you here?
I was earlier a marketing lecturer at this business school in Helsinki, and then at some point I realized that instead of talking about business, that I'd like to do business myself. I had my own startup for 3 years, did different kinds of entertainment apps. I was interested in storytelling in apps and online and social media. After that, I did that for 3 years, failed miserably. But I guess the one thing I learned was how to test concepts early with real customer data. Because when you have little money, you need to be sure that you're spending it wisely. And I had the opportunity to join an existing team, so I joined Do Dreams as a CEO. And together with the wonderful team I have there, we started with these mini games, eventually came up with Drive Ahead, which is our current franchise that we're developing.
Sounds great. Tell me what...
Okay. Yeah.
Just a bit in the camera.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So what's your favorite thing about the video gaming industry, or maybe just something you strongly like about it?
I think my favorite thing about the gaming industry is the community of developers. So traveling around the world, meeting wonderful people who make games, and you know, talking to people and learning from them. I think it's really cool how in gaming people are very open to share their experiences. About, you know, the business aspect of running a game studio, management stuff, you know, tips and advice on scaling and growing a company. It has been very useful for me, and hopefully by giving talks at events like this, maybe I can give something back to the community.
Oh, you definitely are. Anything that maybe irritates you or something you don't like about the industry, strongly dislike?
Well, I think in recent years, like you know, games are developed with data and analytics, and that's of course very important. And I think all the creative decisions should be based on data. But what I've noticed is that studios maybe give up quite easily on games and their communities. So we have found that if we really invest in the community and take care of the players by making regular updates to the game, thinking of the game not as a product but as a service, then the community will support you through difficult times.
What trends do you think are going to persist or maybe appear anew in like a 10 years time? Let's make a prediction.
Oh, that's a very tricky question. So with everything developing so fast, I guess it's really difficult to say. I'm very excited about AR. So our studio, we launched our first augmented reality game, Drive Ahead Mini Golf, just yesterday. So I'm very interested in seeing how this market will develop in the next year or two. If you look at 10-year perspective, then maybe games will be everywhere. Maybe like your glasses could be a platform for playing games.
I'd love that.
Yeah. So maybe, you know, like it will be very interesting to see what kind of sessioning games will have when people could basically be playing all the time.
What do you think is more important in a game, like one of its aspects, the ever-discussed questions, the graphics, the gameplay, the game design, the storytelling maybe?
We usually start with a fun core gameplay. So, of course, we want to make fun, cool games. But we found that that's not enough. So you need to make sure that your players have a reason to return to the game often, and they want to return with their friends. So I think planning this progression and making sure that there are some kind of events like live operations, I think that's very important. And though everybody knows monetization is important, like just thinking of the path the player takes in the game and when are they presented with opportunities to spend money or watch videos or do something like that, like connecting the revenue model with making the game experience better. I think that's very crucial.
Do you have a vision of a video game you'd like to create if you weren't restricted in absolutely no way, like financially, creatively?
There's only one right answer to this, and that is that if we would have no financial restrictions, we would be doing the exact same thing that we're doing now. So I believe that the format that we have, developing games with minimum risk and investment, testing concepts early with players, and launching games thanks to this wonderful, large and active community that we have with Drive Ahead, is the way that we would want to do it, regardless of what kind of budget we have.
Sounds fair. Let's come back to the real world for a moment. What do you think about St. Petersburg?
St. Petersburg is a wonderful place. We've been blessed by wonderful weather this time. I heard from the locals that we're very lucky to enjoy this nice weather. I've had the opportunity to visit St. Petersburg 3 times during the last year for a couple of events, and I'm always excited to meet the local developers. Our Drive Ahead game on Android, Russia is the largest market for us, and this is something that we want to understand better, like why people like the game here, and see how we as a studio could be more present in Russia and be closer to our fans, the players, on Russian social media. So that's why I'm always interested to visit Russia and meet people if I have the chance.
Well, now you have the chance, another one, at this event 4C, and what do you think about it?
I've had a chance to talk at many international events in China and the US, GDC, and places in Europe. I think 4C is the best organized event I've ever been to. You guys are taking really good care of the guests, and the lineup is awesome. So I'm giving a talk myself, but the rest of the time I have a full schedule of listening to presentations. So usually when I go to these international conferences, I'm quite tied up with meeting partners, but here I'm really going to enjoy going to the talks myself and hearing what the experiences people share.
And if you were interviewing yourself right now, what question would you like to ask yourself?
What question would I like to ask myself? I'd probably ask that, why do I have this wonderful beard?
Why do you?
Well, I'll tell you guys a secret. So I'm actually the great-grandson of Santa Claus. And that's why I have this beard, and Santa Claus said to me that you have to learn how to bring people of the world joy. So that's why for the next about 200 years I'm going to be the CEO of the Do Dreams game studio. And one day, in about 200 years, when my beard is all white, then I will become the next Santa Claus.
Really looking forward to it, and from the presents from you. What are you looking forward to? What's maybe the speech that you'd like to hear most? Anything specific?
I love all these demos and case studies that people do. I really like the talks where people go through some project and go through their experiences. So I have several of those in my schedule.
Great, sounds exciting. And now children all over the world are excited for a new Santa. And I hope you have a good time here. Thank you.
Thank you.